Welcome to the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs, the early rising and hardest working committee in the legislature. Will the Secretary please take the roll?
Assemblyman Carter.
Present.
Assemblyman DeLong.
Barely here.
Assemblyman De Silva.
Here.
Assemblywoman Duran.
Here.
Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblyman Gurr. Assemblyman Hibbets. Assemblyman Koenig. Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblyman Wynn. Assemblywoman Taylor. Assemblywoman Thomas. Chair Torres.
And for the record, I'll note that Assemblyman Gonzalez is currently present with us as well. Welcome to the audience here in Carson City, those joining us in Las Vegas, and those listening over the internet. Just a couple housekeeping items. Please remember to silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door and provide a business card to the committee secretary. For those joining online, please be sure to mute your microphone when you're not speaking to minimize any background noise. When testifying, please turn on the microphone and clearly state your name, spell your name, and state your affiliation, if any, for the record. Then turn the microphone off each time you are done speaking. Handouts should have already been provided to the committee staff. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we do not agree with another person's position. Committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. Public comment will be taken at the end of the meeting. Each person will be limited to 2 minutes. In addition, the public may submit written testimony to the committee up to 24 hours after the hearing. I noticed I went through that pretty quickly, but I expect at this point in session, most of us probably know our housekeeping items in the Government Affairs Committee. We do have several bills up for hearing today. And we will be going out of order. I will note the order. We'll be beginning with SB 301. We'll go next to SB 24, then SB 305, SB 166, and SB 279. There is a possibility that bills will be rolled. If the presenter is not here to present the bill, it is likely I will roll the bill because we just do not have time at this point in session to wait. So I will note that because I know staff members are probably listening in what that order is and where their legislator goes. But I will need people to kind of move this along as we do have 5 pieces of legislation to look at today. Additionally, I will note we do have floor at 11:30. So at some point, either bills might be rolled or they will. We might have the opportunity to reconvene at a later hour today if we don't have the opportunity to get through all the bills. I think I probably speak for myself and the entirety of this committee that we would like to finish the bills by 11:30. So with that, we will do our best. And at this time, I'll open the hearing on SB 301, which revises provisions governing public works.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Randy Saltero, here to present SB 301. And you will find that I understand your plight in trying to get done by 11:30. I'll present this bill in the next 45 seconds. This bill has morphed with a couple of different amendments to what it remains as you see here today. Section 1 has said, and this is again pared down language from what the original bill talked about. Section 1A, employed by delivering or removing construction materials or structures to from a site of a public work, and down in section 1, sub 2, A, employed again delivering or removing construction material or structures from a site or a public work, and then 3. Section 1, sub 3, for the purpose of this section, construction material or structures means aggregate, asphalt, or concrete. This was pared down from a lot of different construction materials, including trash removal, all those other things, to limit it just to those things, if you will, with the exception of aggregate, to those 2 items that are if you could say expire, asphalt, meaning it has to be hot and delivered hot in order to be properly placed. So it can't come from out of state, which was a big issue with this bill. If it's impeding on interstate commerce, and also concrete or ready mix, it has to be put down before it starts to expire. So these things, and then aggregate, was something that was, when I talked with Senator Gogachia, was something he suggested that this would be something that would also be delivered within the state or acquired from within the state. And so that's why those three things are left to be included in this bill. So this would mean that on a public work project, the transportation of these materials would be included and qualify as to be paid prevailing wage on a public works project only. With that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Soltero, and thank you. Welcome back to the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs. Your presentation was slightly over the 45 seconds.
And I apologize. I apologize for that.
No,
Madam
not
Chair.
a problem. Thank you so much for being with us today. Members, any questions? I do not believe I see any questions at this time. Thank you for your presentation. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in support of SB 301. And as always, individuals wishing to testify in support, opposition, or neutral to a bill will be given up to 2 minutes.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. We'll try to keep it sweet, short, and simple. For the record, my name is Susie Martinez, and I am the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Nevada State AFL-CIO. And on behalf of over 150,000 members and 120 unions, we are in full support of the bill. Thank you.
Mark Ellis, President, Communication Workers of America, Local 9413, ditto.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Fran Alvarez, here today representing the Teamsters, and we are in full support of this bill. Thank you.
Is anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of SB 301? I don't see anyone at this time. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 301?
Callers, if you would like to testify in support of SB 301, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in opposition to SB 301. I don't see anyone here in cars. It looks like there are some. Getting up slowly. They must have also been watching the floor until 11. Please, when you're ready, please begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Mac Bybee with the Associated Builders and Contractors of Nevada. The current system on prevailing wage for deliveries of the materials that were cited is if there's a dedicated plant to the public work. It is a system that's been in place for, I think, nearly 3 decades. It is a system that works. It is a system that is easy to comply with because it is definitive, and it's a system that's easy to regulate. So contractors can stay within the guidelines, and the Labor Commissioner can enforce prevailing wage laws as they are currently written. This bill would dismantle that system, creating a construct that's going to be difficult to track, difficult to comply with, and for those reasons, we would urge the committee to not advance this bill. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, I'm Paul Enos. I'm the CEO of the Nevada Trucking Association, here today in opposition to Senate Bill 301. Mr. Soltero is absolutely right on your concrete and your asphalt having an expiration to it. And, typically when you have an expiration, you're not bringing those things from very far. Sand, gravel, dirt, aggregate doesn't have an expiration. And we do get those materials from other states. We do get them from Arizona. We do get them from California. We do get them from Utah. And we do believe that this could have some interstate commerce complications. When you talk about prevailing wage for truck drivers, where do you start? Do you start when they pick that project up, when they pick up that load and when they drop it off? Do you just do it when they're actually on site? We don't know, and we think that it's going to be extremely difficult to try to administer this, and particularly for our smallest businesses, our disadvantaged business enterprises, which are federally required to work on some of these projects. Typically, they're the folks that are hauling dirt and sand and gravel and aggregate. And these folks aren't very sophisticated. I will tell you, some of our bigger companies that do public works projects, they have to have one person on staff that just handles the certified payroll reports for prevailing wage. So it is difficult. It is a challenge even for those big guys, and they don't always get it right. Sometimes they get it wrong. So when we're talking about having an impact on those small disadvantaged business enterprises, that is going to cause a problem with this bill. You have to check in. Sometimes you might use an owner-operator for some of these loads, and you would have to report that owner-operator who delivers just once to that project throughout the entire course of the project. I see my time is running short. I will submit some more things for the record. Thank you very much. We appreciate a vote of no on 301.
Thank you. And I think that there was a question of whether of how this impacts interstate commerce. I will at this time go to legal. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So generally, the Dormant Commerce Clause doctrine prevents states from imposing requirements that impede interstate commerce on businesses that operate within the state. However, the market participant exception to the doctrine of the Dormant Commerce Clause allows for the state, when it is the customer, when it is a party to the contract, to impose requirements as a buyer that might otherwise be problematic under an interstate commerce analysis. Since the provisions of this bill in particular deal with when the state is a customer buying certain materials for public works, provisions that may otherwise violate interstate commerce would not be problematic under the Interstate Commerce Clause due to that market participant exception. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that clarification. We will continue in negation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Glenn Levitt, Director of Government Affairs for the Nevada Contractors Association. We represent over 450 contractors, subcontractors, and industry affiliates, primarily in Southern Nevada. And we oppose this bill for the reasons previously stated. When you're talking about a commercial business delivering to a public works site that's not dedicated to that public work, it's very problematic for our commercial vendors to do that. And so we want to make sure that you understand that we're not against prevailing wage on public works. Just logistically, it doesn't make sense for that particular item stated in the bill. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Alexis Motorex with the Nevada Chapter Associated General Contractors, representing the commercial construction industry in Northern Nevada. And I, too, want to reiterate what my colleague from NCA said, that the AGC has always supported prevailing wage. But we see an unintended consequence with this measure. As Mr. Eno said, the Federal Highway Administration and NDOT require contractors to ensure a percentage of all construction contracts for highway construction are performed by disadvantaged business enterprise or DBEs. In Northern Nevada, achieving this participation goal is primarily accomplished by hiring DBE trucking firms to deliver goods and materials to the site of work. As many of these DBE truckers are owner-operators, they are not required to submit certified payroll reports, nor are they required to pay themselves prevailing wage. These businesses simply enter into a lump sum contract for the hauling of the material. This proposal would change that relationship with these DBEs, and it's our opinion that many of these owner-operators would no longer seek to perform public works construction because the cost of compliance with prevailing wage and certified payroll would be too much and the risk of fines and penalties would be too great, thus restricting contractors' abilities to hire these Nevada-based minority and women-owned businesses and limiting the ability of those businesses to grow and thrive in this state.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Warren Hardy, today representing the Nevada Urban Consortium, made up of the cities of Las Vegas, Reno, Henderson, North Las Vegas, and Sparks. We have no position on the prevailing wage issue. We typically pay prevailing wage on all projects related to local government. Our concern revolves around the enforcement of this. We as local governments are ultimately responsible for enforcing the statutes, and this is going to make it, for many of the reasons, especially those that were brought up by the speaker from AGC North, it's going to create real problems for us in terms of being able to enforce it. And so we're also concerned that it could lead to lawsuits. Sometimes these statutes, when they're unclear, are very often weaponized by one contractor against another. So our concern really evolves around the enforcement. So thank you, Madam Chair.
And I apologize. I have a question, Mr. Hardy. You mentioned that there's like a lack of clarity. Can you be more clear about what lack of clarity it lacks and where you would like us to add more clarity? Because we're happy to add some type of additional enforcement measures if necessary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Warren Hardy for the record. I don't know how to add the lack of clarity revolves around the drivers themselves. So if especially in aggregate. So an aggregate driver may come from out of state and he may have 4 or 5 drop-offs that day, or he may be in state. He may have 3 or 4 drop-offs that day. So for him to be able to, he or she to be able to stop and say, okay, I've got to be paid prevailing wage when? From the time I leave the plant until I drop off the aggregate, or between the drop-off 1 and drop-off 2, when do I calculate the payment of prevailing wage? So am I being paid prevailing wage for 15 minutes while I drive on that site and drop off the aggregate, and then I'm no longer being paid prevailing wage while I'm driving? There's also complications with the prevailing wage laws in terms of the ability to pay somebody at a different rate for doing the same job. There's requirements in the law that say if you are acting as X, you have to do that for the day. You can't switch back and forth. So those are the kinds of confusion, I think, that are related to this bill. And they primarily revolve around aggregate. I think the other 2 issues are hot loads, and they are generally from the plant to the job site. They're less complicated, but the aggregate creates significant confusion.
Thank you. I think those are great questions, and I believe that legal has an answer to address some of those concerns.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So just in reference to that issue, subsection 2 of section 1 of the bill does empower the Labor Commissioner to adopt regulations defining the circumstances under which a worker is delivering or removing construction material or structures to the site of a public work. So the law itself doesn't get into that level of detail, but it does obligate the Labor Commissioner to adopt regulations that would clarify those circumstances.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Stephen Wood, today representing the Nevada League of Cities and Municipalities. I just want to echo the comments that were made by my colleagues here and reiterate the difficulties that local governments will have complying with and enforcing this legislation. So we urge you to continue to consider those challenges, and we are in opposition of SB 301. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Dylan Keith with the Vegas Chamber. We would like to largely echo the sentiments of our colleagues and the trade partners that have already gone in opposition. We would also like to raise the concern of these overly permissive languages that aren't set by the legislature, that are allowed by the Labor Commissioner to set. We'd agree that this body should be setting those parameters. For that reason, we are in opposition. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I don't see anyone else here in Carson City in opposition to SB 301. Is there anyone in Las Vegas? I don't believe I see anyone. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to SB 301?
Callers, if you would like to testify in opposition to SB 301, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. One moment, Chair. Caller with the last 3 digits, 845. You're unmuted on our end. Please go ahead. One moment, Chair.
Yes, this is Clint Capro from Capro Trucking. I'd just like to say that I oppose this as well.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to testify at this time.
And I'm sorry, is that caller still on the line just so we can get that name clearly for the record?
One moment, Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was Clint Capro from Capro Trucking.
And could you spell your name, please? Thank you.
That's CLINTCAPURRO.
Thank you. We appreciate it, sir. Thank you for testifying. Is there any more callers online, BPS?
One moment, Chair. Caller with the last three digits, 845. You're unmuted on our end. Please go ahead.
My name is Teresa Herrera with H&R Trucking. I'd like to thank you for the ability to speak. I oppose this bill. I have a difficult time as it is paying wages on a lot of jobs, but this is an example of the wages on Nye County, Esmeralda, US 95, 12 miles out of Beatty. The basic wage was $61.52. My share of the Social Security was 3.28. The Medicare was 0.90. The unemployment was 3.39, and the workman's comp was $8 per hour. That equaled $77.09 per hour for a truck driver. The overtime wage was $92.28, and after all the Medicare, unemployment, workman's comp, and Social Security, it equaled $117.53 for overtime rate. My fuel average is around $55 an hour. My insurance has increased this year 18.7% with a truck at $17,386 for the annual payment on insurance. I'm a DBE, and it's very difficult. I struggle daily just to find jobs for my employees because I have to compete with large brokers and larger companies. So I'm very small. Would be detrimental to my company, and I oppose this bill. Thank you.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll invite anyone wishing to testify in neutral to SB 301. I don't see any here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral to SB 301? I don't believe I see any at this time. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in neutral to SB 301?
Callers, if you would like to testify in neutral for SB 301, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll invite the bill sponsor for any closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Rady Saltero. Just briefly, in response to some of the testimony in opposition, innovation and modernization is something that we deal with and we adjust to in the construction industry every day, every year. Something new is coming out. So I respectfully disagree with the argument that it's difficult to track vehicle movement. If you've ever, my example is simply, if you've ever been in an Uber car or called for an Uber car, that car is you can watch that car come. It's tracked almost to the moment, where it goes and where it stops and whatever else it does. That technology is going to be a part of the future, and that's why we believe that this kind of legislation should be directed towards the Labor Commissioner to have open public hearings to talk about modernization in the industry. I thank you so much for your indulgence this morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Thank you for considering SB 301.
Thank you. And at this time, we are going to go ahead and continue on. I will let members know if we do work session bills today, it'll be at the end so that I can give members the time to just have conversations and figure out and ask any questions and see if there's anything that needs to be held. So at this time, we will go on to our next piece of legislation. I will close the hearing on SB 301, and I will open the hearing on SB 24, it's Lieutenant Governor's Bill, which revises provisions relating to the Office of Small Business Advocacy within the Office of Lieutenant Governor. Thank you. Okay, looks like I have a representative from the LG's office in Las Vegas. When you're ready, you may begin.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak about SB 24. For the record, my name is Sarah Johnson. I'm the director for the Lieutenant Governor's Office of Small Business Advocacy. I want to be respectful of everyone's time this morning. I know at this point in the session, we're all just kind of like ready to rock and roll. So I'll provide a concise overview of some of the most important achievements and goals for our office. OSBA was created to help small business owners navigate hurdles related to licensing and regulations from the state, county, and city government. It's OSBA's job to resolve these issues for Nevada's micro small business owners, and there's no other agency or organization in Nevada working for our entrepreneurs in this way. Our resource partners, for example, might assist small business owners as they create a business plan, search for funding, or develop human resource policies. But we work with micro small business owners one-on-one as we help them correct regulatory and permitting issues, navigate unnecessary delays, and get back in business as quickly as possible. I'll give a few examples of some of the recent issues we've resolved. We worked with an interior designer whose business was fined almost $20,000 from the Nevada State Board of Architecture, Interior Design, and Residential Design. We worked with the board and were able to get that fine reduced for them down to $4,000. We also worked with a food truck owner in Las Vegas. This food truck is this family's sole source of income. They got their license confused when they switched from a farmer's market permit to a food truck permit and wound up being in violation with Southern Nevada Health District. Their license was taken away and signs they didn't understand were plastered all over their food truck. We were able to work with SNHD and the food truck owner to get a temporary license issued so they could get back in business. We got some of their fees reduced and then also got them on a payment plan that was more reasonable to their ability to pay. Another example of recent work is with applicants seeking licenses to sell mortgages. Several individuals came to us because they were waiting 7 to 10 months for their approval, even though in other states this typically takes around 2 months. Delays like this cost individuals the ability to earn an income, provide for their families, and also limit options for Nevada in seeking home financing. In addition to the work that we do with Nevada's entrepreneurs, we also make our state more small business friendly for the future. We analyze small business challenges and barriers to entry by monitoring state, federal, and local laws, regulations, and policies relating to small business. We also research what other states are doing to encourage entrepreneurship and strategize on how we can replicate those successes here in Nevada. And finally, we make recommendations to local and state leaders, government agencies, and members of the legislature on how to improve issues impeding small business growth in our state. By working together, we can help promote and encourage a vibrant and thriving small business community here in Nevada. SB 24 reauthorizes the Office of Small Business Advocacy and allows us to continue serving Nevada's entrepreneurs. You'll see with the recent amendment, OSBA will use ARPA funding instead of state general funds to fund the office for another 2 years. We look forward to the opportunity to report back to this committee on the small businesses we've served and the improvements we've recommended to ensure Nevada is truly small business friendly. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I do have a question. It seems like I think I might be the only member in my committee that had their coffee this morning and is ready to go. But I did want to know if, obviously we saw this piece of legislation last session under Lieutenant Governor Kate Marshall at the time, and we had this conversation, we had a conversation about really opening this office. And so now this office has been in place since the last legislative session. So I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit about like how many businesses that this office is currently serving, and what like the day-to-day operations, like how many people is this reach, is like, what does this reach out look like in our community?
Sure, thank you so much for that question, Sarah Johnson, for the record. Yes, it did get pushed through last legislative session. We've been in operation probably about 8 months. As you can imagine, we've gone through 3 different lieutenant governors and 2 different directors in that time. We've served about 300 small business owners as we've gotten a state agency up and running. So it's been difficult to get it up and running, and then also focus on the entrepreneurs as well. But like I said, in that time, we have served around 300 small business owners.
Thank you. And what does the investment into this office look like right now? And how much money are we considering investing into it in the future?
Yes, so the fiscal note on the, or I guess the budget for OSBA is around 365 for the year. I think that's right. And it's ARPA funding, not state general funding.
Thank you. And can you talk a little bit about how this is going to change the way that this office is funded?
It does not change how the office is funded. It's currently funded with ARPA funding, and it will continue to be funded with ARPA funding if it passes.
And I think just to add some clarity, I think the office has in the past been funded with ARPA funding, but in the future this would authorize it to be funded through the SGF, which would probably allow for it to have some more longevity, if I'm correct. Is that right?
That's correct. So the office is funded with ARPA funding, but it does open it up for state general funds. But the funding for the office comes only from ARPA, from my understanding.
Yeah, yes, and I believe probably the goal is for us to be able to stand up this office so that it was more permanent. And at this time, obviously, ARPA funds aren't going to be there forever. And so while we were able to open it at a time when those funds were available, I imagine in the future, the goal is for this office to continue the impact that it has. Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I don't believe there's any additional questions at this time. Thank you for coming to present with us. At this time, we'll invite anyone wishing to testify in support of SB 24.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good to see you. For the record, Trey Abney, representing the 2,000 member businesses of NFIB in Nevada, the National Federation of Independent Business. We support this bill in this office, and we supported this 2 years ago when Lieutenant Governor Marshall created it. You know, just in my own business, which is home-based, and two folks that each work out of our homes, the amount of hoops you have to jump through at the local and state level just to set up a business can be daunting. You know, most of our members are about 4 to 8 employees, and so anything we can do to provide a one-stop shop, one phone number, one email that a very small business can reach out to just for some help and some guidance, I think is well worth the time and the effort by this state. So we strongly support this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. Dylan Keith with the Vegas Chamber. We'd like to strongly support SB 24. It is a fantastic tool for small businesses to use as they are in their most fragile state and just trying to stay open and do everything the right way. But it is very complicated for many folks who are just operating a small business and trying to keep that business alive while doing it the right way. And this is another resource, and they have shown through their track record that they are there, they're happy to help, and they're doing a great job. And we ask for your support to continue this program. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, Mindy Elliott, this morning representing the Economic Development Authority of Western Nevada and the Nevada Battle-Born Growth Escalator, Inc. So I think from the perspective of the importance of this bill, as small businesses, we're hearing all the bills where we're providing abatements to these large companies that are moving in. It's the small businesses, though, that are providing the support. So as these small businesses are stood up, sometimes they're not sure how to navigate the system, whether it's the Nevada Tax Division, whether it's the Silver Flume, whether it's the Business and Industry, whether it's GoEd. How do you access the dollars to help their small businesses to be vibrant? And I think, and more important, be compliant with the state. I think all small businesses don't want to receive a letter from a department that they didn't even know that they were supposed to be integrated with. And I think it's, as from the standpoint of the Nevada Battle-Born Growth Escalator, Inc., we are just standing up a microloan program, and we want to make sure that we have access to those small businesses so we can communicate with them that from the state's perspective, we have loans that can help them grow and be prosperous. So with that, we appreciate the advocacy that this office is providing to our small businesses, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Sheila Bray with the University of Nevada, Reno. We are in strong support of this bill. As my colleagues have noted, there are some existing resources in small business and to help those communities, but I think this opportunity will bring forth a new way for them to really collaborate and move forward, and we look forward to being part of that process. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else here in Carson City wishing to testify in support of SB 24, so we'll go ahead and go to Las Vegas when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Emily Osterberg. I'm here on behalf of the Henderson Chamber of Commerce and our over 1,800 members, most of which are small businesses, in support of SB 24. OSBA is essential to strengthening Nevada's entrepreneurial infrastructure and supporting small businesses by providing guidance to help them understand their rights and responsibilities. In addition, they're able to make recommendations to state and local agencies and legislatures on ways to streamline processes and create policies that benefit small business. For these reasons and the previous ones mentioned, we are in support of SB 24. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I don't see anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of SB 24. BPS, is there anyone on the lines wishing to testify in support of SB 24?
Callers, if you would like to testify in support of SB 24, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. One moment, Chair. Caller with the last 3 digits, 857. Please go ahead, caller.
Yes, my name is Anna Wood, Government Affairs Chair, member of the Board of Directors of the Las Vegas Asian Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Chair Torres, Vice Chair Duran, and members of the Assembly Committee. I speak in support of Senate Bill 24. As an immigrant, a proud citizen, and one who came from a family of small business owners, I know the hardships which my parents endured. Helping new and established small business owners understand their rights and responsibilities is vital for small businesses to thrive in this growing economy. With close to 300,000 small businesses in Nevada, it is vital to our state to retain and maintain the Small Business Advocacy Office as a connector to small businesses. AAPI businesses need the support of a customer and language-friendly office environment with experienced and knowledgeable representatives that will link, guide, provide the necessary resources, answers to their specific business needs, and assistance in navigating through the complex licensing and permit hurdles which are confusing to immigrant entrepreneurs. It is for these reasons that I urge you to support SB 24. It is the right thing to do to continue to support the AAPI business community and Nevada's economy. I thank you for your time, consideration, and support.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go to opposition. Is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition to SB 24? I don't see any here in Carson City. Looks like we lost our connection to Las Vegas. We will check to see about Las Vegas, but BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to SB 24?
Callers, to testify in opposition to SB 24, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide testimony at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to testify neutral to SB 305? I apologize, SB 24. I don't know what bill I'm on. I don't see any here in Carson City, and I don't see any in Las Vegas. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify neutral to SB 24?
Callers, if you would like to testify neutral for SB 24, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite the bill presenter for any closing remarks. And I do know that we had one final question. If we could go to the question before we do the remarks, Assemblyman Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Johnson, for being here today. Just want to kind of ask you on the day-to-day operation of your office, do you all collect data in terms of what types of business that come through to you all, and is that data available from a public perspective in terms of how what kind of business that come to you for assistance, and then also if there's any language need in terms of when they reach out to you, if they have trouble navigating based on language access? Thank you.
Sarah Johnson, for the record. Absolutely. So when I took this job in January of this year, there had not been.
And I apologize if you could state your name for the record.
Oh, Sarah Johnson, for the record. When I took this job over in January, there hadn't been a real concerted effort for the data mining or the data gathering that you're referring to. That is a major priority for the office now. So we have been gathering that information. We have a new form, like a new intake form that we ask small business owners to complete so we can gather that information. And then I've also reached out to several members of the legislature for input on information that we should be gathering. So I would love to send that to you if you would like to see it and provide input to that form so we can make sure that we're gathering information that's useful to you.
Quick follow-up, Chair. So just that last part again, Director Johnson, do you have or know, or maybe there hasn't been any kind of outreach yet, but has there been outreach to your office in terms of small businesses needing language access support in terms of navigating state or local agencies?
Yes, Sarah Johnson, for the record. Yes, we do a concerted outreach to the Asian community as well as the Hispanic community. My deputy director, who's actually in front of you today, is Melissa Saavedra, and she is Spanish speaking fluently. And then we also have direct access to the Las Vegas Asian Chamber, which helps us with the Asian community as well.
Great, thank you. And I look forward to seeing that form. And yes, we'll be glad to support. And if you could provide those data whenever you have them to the committee, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And if you have any additional closing remarks, Ms. Johnson.
Sure, yes. Sarah Johnson, for the record. I just wanted to thank the community or the committee for hearing SB 24 this morning, and then also thank all the supporters who came out to speak on our behalf. I just appreciate it, and I hope you'll have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. I appreciate it. At this time, we'll go ahead and close the hearing on SB 24, and we'll open the hearing on SB 305, which provides for the establishment of a retirement savings program for private sector employees. When you're ready, you may begin.
All right. Good morning, Chair Torres, members of the Government Affairs Committee. My name is Dallas Harris. I represent Senate District 11, and I am very happy to be with you all to present Senate Bill 305 today. In the most simplest explanation I can, this is essentially a savings mechanism for folks who do not have the opportunity to save through their employer. And so if you work at a generally a larger company, you may have a 401k, or if you work for the state, maybe a 457, and you're able to kind of save directly out of your paycheck. However, if your employer doesn't offer that, chances you are saving in any kind of retirement savings program at all is pretty slim, right? Now, we all could do that. You could take your paycheck, go to Wells Fargo or Vanguard or Fidelity, open up an IRA, deposit your post-tax dollars into that account, and then at the end of the tax year, you'll receive some paperwork back from your company that you chose, right? And then you take that and you claim it off of your taxes, and then you can get the money deducted off of your income and your taxable liability. But that's a lot, right? I don't expect the average person to do that. What you really need is the opportunity for it to come right off of your check so you don't see it. And there are estimates between 45 to 50% of Nevadans that simply don't have that opportunity, right? Whether it's that you're working that 37 and a half hours that keeps you right under full time, or you're working at a small business that really can't afford to offer that type of program, or your boss just doesn't want to do it, right? Whatever the reason may be, there is a significant amount of Nevadans who cannot save right off of their paycheck. This bill would allow them to do so without the government owning their money, right? And without there being some danger of Nevada being able to tap into those dollars as some type of punishment. We've seen states across the country adopt these types of programs really to encourage folks to do the personally responsible thing, right? And that's save your own bucks. We're not giving people any money. We're just going to make it easier for them to save their own money. Because if there is one thing that I know, it is that if we don't get people saving, in 30 years, 40 years, our social programs are going to be at their max. Housing costs are on the rise, medical costs are on the rise, and we need to make sure that folks are best suited to handle that retirement future. With that, Madam Chair, I'm happy to take any questions that the committee may have.
Members, any questions? Assemblywoman Thomas.
And thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for your presentation and coming up with ways to save. And I believe this is for retirement. So my question is, when this person is saving, is this non-touchable savings? And if they do save, is there a penalty to take it out?
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Thomas. I'll answer that in a couple of ways. One, this is an IRA, and so there are federal rules and regulations behind what you can use an IRA for, how long you can't touch it. Right? And those rules will have to be followed. So it is a retirement account, which means it's designed not to be tapped regularly like you might do a savings account. Second piece of that is in this bill, you will see there is a 90-day off ramp. And so if you're in this program, and you take a look at your first paycheck, as a matter of fact, I think most people get about 6 in 90 days, right, in 3 months, and you go, oh, whoa, what is this? I can't afford this. You can opt out and get that money back penalty free. We've written that into the legislation. We want folks to have plenty of time to decide that this is something they want to do and can afford to do. And then the last piece I will say on that is, yes, there are penalties if you withdraw these funds prematurely. However, it is way cheaper than a payday loan, which is what folks often will do now if they wake up and their car won't start and they've got to get to work and they just simply don't have the $1,500 it takes to repair the car. And so while some folks will tap this money at times they are not supposed to, I'll be honest, I do anticipate that happening. At least they've got the money to tap. That is a win for them, even with the tax implications. At least we're not seeing 100% or more in interest rates on a payday loan where they might get stuck in that infamous payday loan cycle. I see folks being much better set up to ride the waves that may come. And then lastly, I've been working with the Treasurer's Office to see if there is some way to bifurcate the accounts so that there is, in fact, a kind of like a holding tank, right, of savings, maybe at a money market rate that you can tap before the money goes into the IRA that's invested.
And thank you, Senator, for that explanation. I was just wondering, does it also, that if that person takes a loan, that they can pay it back into their savings account, say like, like that $1,500 you were just mentioning, if they extract that out over a period of time, they could pay back, say like $25 a month to pay back that loan.
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Thomas. To you, through Chair Torres, Dallas Harris for the record.
And feel free to go directly to the member, Senator.
All right, thank you. So the IRA is a little different than the 401k. The 401k has mechanisms where you can take a loan and pay it back. The IRA federal restrictions are a little bit different, and it doesn't have really that mechanism as freely as the 401k does, but even that is fairly strict. And so I would not suggest that the plan be to take a loan from your IRA in hopes of trying to pay it back. Which is why I'd like to see a system where we have a savings portion to this, and you can pull from that and not have to pay it back, right? If in fact you do need it, and that portion of that account will not have been already invested into the IRA where it has those stricter restraints. That answer your question, ma'am?
Yes, I was just wondering because I know in a mutual fund you can do that. All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I know that I have several questions, so this is the order that I have right now. Assemblyman Taylor, Assemblyman Nguyen, Assemblyman Koenig, Vice Chair Duran, and Assemblyman DeLong. So I'll go next to Assemblyman Taylor. If there's anybody I missed, just let me know.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, Senator. Thank you for being here. And as a small business owner, right, thank you for putting something like this together. Just a couple of questions, Chair, if you will allow. Does it include, say someone is an employee, but they're like a 1099, they're a contract employee? Are they able to be a part of this program if the employer I think the employer has to sign up, correct? Okay.
Thank you for that question, Assemblywoman Taylor. Dallas Harris for the record. Yes, ideally 1099 folks would be able to take advantage of this program as well. We know that there are a lot of people, home health care workers, Uber drivers, who kind of live in this amorphous land of independent contractor. It is my vision that, yes, they'd also be able to participate in this program and get some savings going.
Thank you, Chair. May I have a second question? Thank you very much. And thank you, Senator. Another question is part of the mindset behind this is the advantages of pooling all the money together, like as it begins from a lot of small businesses or private gig economy people and so on. And is there a minimum before this really begins?
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Taylor. Dallas Harris for the record. So with this program, really what we start to see when we see scale is that the fees to participate in the program drop substantially, right? And so this program is actually not funded by the state, although this program did take a loan, so you see an appropriation, it'll pay the state back. And it's not funded by the businesses. Right? So the businesses pay nothing to participate. It's 100% funded by the fees of the people participating. And so one of the things we're looking at is joining onto another state to really take advantage of that economy of scale and keep those fees as low as possible. The more dollars you have under management, yes, the lower the fees are.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Harris. Appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Assemblyman Nguyen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator. I think you represent one of the best districts in the state. In terms of that district, those district is actually one of the most diverse, right? So I think you may be familiar with my line of question, and this is that I think this is a great idea. I'm really wanting to ensure that there are plans in place for language access outreach. In terms of our communities being able to really benefit from this, they need to understand, pretty much down to the nuts and bolts of what that could be for them. And I'm not sure if there are plans to work with the top 10 languages according to the census tract, just so that when we have, when the program is implemented, that the not only the language access communities, but pretty much anyone that want to understand this product can learn about it, and there's a centralized place for that. So just want to see your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman Nguyen. I don't know if you all have met your state treasurer, Zach Conine, but he's got a thing about doing things well, right? Oh, and Mr. Jimenez is here. Yeah. Well, I was going to say I am 100% confident that the treasurer will use that. By the way, we've got marketing dollars on this bill as well, right? That he's going to use some of those dollars to ensure every Nevadan has the information they need in order to participate in this program. But I'll turn it over to Mr. Jimenez for further discussion.
Thank you, Senator and Madam Chair. I was anticipating this question, Assemblyman, so congratulations, you finally got it into me in 114 days. The bill requires that the board of directors that's set up through this bill that administers the program communicate all of the tax implications, the structure of the programs, the options that they have. In this bill, they also have the option to join a retirement plan offered by a Chamber of Commerce. I will tell you on the record, we will do that in as many languages as we need to. So I think using the top 10 languages makes a lot of sense. We got to figure out a way to package that in the most fiscally responsible way. But the last thing we want is people to not understand what they're getting into.
That's appreciative. Very thankful for the Treasurer's Office intent and hardworking, initiative of ensuring that across the board, not just this bill, but across the bills that we have in the state to ensure that our community, the diverse community, is not behind. I think that's why District 11 and District 8, this is the best. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, and I'm going to go ahead and go to our legal counsel to talk about language access as is currently required by the statutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So NRS 232-0081, which was adopted into law last session, does contain requirements for language access plans for the heads of agencies under the executive department, and I believe the board would be an agency of the executive department as defined in that law, so that the language access plan requirements that were adopted by the legislature last session would extend to the agency administering these retirement plans.
Thank you. And I will note that AB 480, which is the governor's bill that has to do with language access, was funded under the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, and obviously still has to go through the legislative process. And that bill did receive a $25 million appropriation yesterday through the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means. And so I imagine that that could also be used to help support some of that outreach as well. If the board were to apply through IFC in order to get those funds. So just some additional access points for our communities. At this time, I do have a couple more questions. Assemblyman Koenig.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for presenting. Good seeing you this morning. So reading through the bill, the business can opt in, the employer can opt in to the program. Is it instigated by the employer, or is it instigated by the employee?
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman Koenig, Dallas Harris for the record. And so there are two parts to this. Every employer, every covered employer as defined by the bill must offer a program, right? So if you don't have your own retirement program, you got to jump in and offer this to your employees. Employees then will have the opportunity to opt out.
So they're in unless they opt out. So other quick questions. So I was looking at some of the specifics. You have to have more than 5 employees. You have to be in business for over 3 years, and you have to not be offering a program currently. So I fit into all those, and I do offer a pretty good retirement plan, but I wouldn't be eligible for this in my business because I already offer a plan. Is there any way to transition from the current plan that I am offering now into this, or how would that potentially work?
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman Koenig. I'm going to take a stab at it, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Jimenez for the correct answer. So this really is not designed to attract employers to jump off of whatever private program they're offering. There are some things that this program won't offer that you might be able to get on the private market, right? Better rates for your employees or other considerations. We are not trying to take people who are currently offering programs and shift them on to this one. And so I would say stick with what you've got. But if at some point you can't afford that to offer to your employees, this would be an option for you.
And just real quick on a couple of those, Assemblyman Eric Jimenez, for the record. I imagine we will do this in a phased approach based on number of employees, so we wouldn't go out on day one and say all businesses must comply. We'd probably go to the larger businesses first, then we'd probably go to those with automatic payroll companies, and then kind of make our way into those smaller, harder to reach businesses, which I think is still really important that we give those businesses, their employees, access to retirement savings. I think on your second question, the intention is not to have employers ditch their current retirement plans, but I think as economic circumstances change and maybe revenues don't come into the business at the way that you would like, and you want to keep that employee retention rate by offering some sort of retirement plan, we're hopeful that if circumstances do change, that employers could at least pivot to something like this and still make sure that that employee is as whole as possible.
Thank you. Vice Chair Duran.
Good morning, and thank you for your presentation. It's always good to save, because when you don't see money, you don't spend it, because if it's in my bank, it's gone. But just to follow, a question is, so on your fees, is it going to be based on the percentage? So maybe is it an offering of how much you can take out, a percentage of your paycheck? Is there a minimum that you have to do? And I think, because I do have a 401k, and I'm not sure if it's based on the percentage of my fees, because I think fees are individually capped for each person.
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Duran. Dallas Harris for the record. So that default rate where you will kind of be put into if you don't choose anything else is something that's going to be established by the board. It's not in this piece of legislation. However, people will have the opportunity to go in and up that number at any point, or take it all the way down to zero at any point. And so if you want to do 50% of your paycheck, you can do that. If you want to do 2% of your paycheck, you can do that, right? Regardless of what the default rate is, people will have the ability to change that number to whatever works best for them almost at any time. You won't be stuck. There's no open enrollment period like we do with healthcare necessarily, let's say, and you're stuck with what you've got for the whole year. You can go in and change that up or down as you feel free.
As well as, I was going to follow-up question with that is, am I going to be able to have like a personal, well, maybe not a personal, but an advisor to basically talk about, and I think you said this in here, to change my investments or put it straight through a savings? And just a quick question, and if I decide to opt out at time, will I be able to ever opt back in?
So let me take your second question first, and the answer is yes. By simply changing your election from 0 back up to 10% or 15% or whatever it is. Yes, you'll be able to contribute money or not contribute money at your will, right? Whatever you'd like to do. When it comes to having an investment advisor, I don't know if that'll be a product that is offered as part of this program, but of course every person can go and hire an investment advisor if they'd like. Generally, these retirement programs have a certain amount of offerings, often with target retirement dates. So you can get a target retirement fund for 2040 or 2045, and that's what a lot of folks will do. It's more conservative as it gets more conservative as it gets closer to that retirement date, right? And anyone is free, clearly, to consult with an investment advisor, but it really depends on which state we join and what their program offering looks like. Mr. Jimenez, did I mess that up?
No, you didn't. Eric Jimenez for the record. Assemblywoman, just to put a finer point on that, We have been talking to the state of Oregon and the states of Colorado and New Mexico to join a consortium of plans. We do this already with a program called the ABLE Savings Plan, which is essentially a tax-advantaged investment account for people with disabilities so they don't lose their Medicaid and Social Security. As part of that, we don't know exactly what that would look like, but one of the requirements that I would imagine the Treasurer's Office and the board would look for is, are there on-site or are there remote or on-site staff that people can go to when they have investment questions? I think it's always important to state for the record that, like, the Treasurer's Office would never serve as someone's investment advisor, and we would suggest that you go talk to a professional investment advisor, but we will make sure that there are people there to answer questions on what the difference of funds are, what the levels of risk are, how you could mitigate that risk. And then also, I think in the materials, we're going to be very diligent in making sure that all consumers know any risk that might be presented to them, because the last thing we want is somebody, unfortunately, making a bad financial decision. So we want to protect those assets up front.
Thank you. And I will go next to Assemblyman DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. You had mentioned a 90-day off-ramp as well as a holding tank concept. Have you or the Treasurer identified a way to have that be compliant with the IRS's IRA requirements?
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman DeLong. I'll start and then I'll turn it over to the Treasurer's Office for further comment. So let me start with the holding tank idea. What that would be is that first account is almost like you can deposit money into that. And then what you would do is take money from there.
Pardon me, Senator Harris. I actually don't need an explanation.
Okay.
I just wanted to know if you'd found a way to make it compliant.
Sure. So I was going through that because that first account would not be an IRA. And so we wouldn't worry about the federal requirements on that holding account, okay? And so it really wouldn't create issues with compliance for the IRA because it's not that portion of the account would not be an IRA. With the 90-day requirement, Mr. Jimenez will have further comments on this. That likely also would not be invested into the IRA right away so that you could pull it out without any tax implications or running afoul of the federal rules.
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman. The answer to your question is the other states that we are looking at partnering with are actively have found a way or finding a way around the ERISA requirements and the IRS regulations. So
Thank you.
we would make sure that was part of the process.
Follow-up question, Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, I have two. You had mentioned that 1099 workers would be covered. I look in Section 7 and Section 8, and I didn't see a place where they would be covered. Can you point to where in the statute that is located?
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman. If they are not able to be covered after we stand this program up, it'll be my intention to come back and make sure that they can get in. Great. So that'll be a part of the development process, and if we don't have the legislation quite right, I'll fix it.
Okay, thank you. And then a final quick question to the Treasurer's Office. Do you see the fiscal note changing depending on the number of employers that get involved in the program?
Thank you for the question, Assemblyman Eric Jimenez, for the record. The answer is yes, and I think on two factors. One, and we see this with our ABLE savings plan now, the greater level of assets under management, the lower level of participant fees and lower level of overall costs to the program. But the big variable factor, and we can't legislate this until we know what's going to happen. The intention is to join another state consortium, which one, reduces participant fees, but two, also reduces the staff that we would need for that. If we were unable to go into another state program, what you see in our fiscal note that was approved out of the Senate Finance Committee would be what we think we need to staff the program.
Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and ask a question before I go to Assemblywoman Gonzalez. I'm just hoping you can give us and I've obviously had the opportunity to speak with some of the proponents of this piece of legislation. And I just would like to make sure it's very clear for committee members, because I think there's a lot of questions on this topic. Can you walk through, I'm going to go through two different processes: what this looks like on the employer side, who qualifies, what this looks like for them and how they apply. And then I would like us to also talk about the employee. But if we could focus right now for the employers, who does this impact? What does this look like? And what does this mean for that company?
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair. If it's okay with you, I'm going to kick that one all the way to Mr. Jimenez, because it will be the Treasurer's Office that is doing the interacting with the businesses to get them enrolled in this program.
I'm just so fortunate to get that question, Madam Chair. Eric Jimenez for the record. Functionally, a board, let's start from the beginning, right? And then we could talk about how it would look like for employers and employees. Functionally, the board would be constituted. That board has representatives from business and employers in it. It would craft regulations to design the program, and simultaneously we would go and look towards partnerships with other states who have already stood up a program. So we don't reinvent the wheel here. I'm good at many things, but if I can avoid having to stand up an entirely new program, that makes my life a little bit better. On the business side, so let's say regulations are promulgated, there is a program enacted, you would see what I expressed to Assemblyman Koenig earlier, probably a phased approach. So businesses with greater than 100 employees, businesses greater with 50 employees. And while we expect that a lot of those businesses are currently offering retirement savings plans for their employees, some of them may not be, so there's going to be an education component to each of those businesses in each of the phases. We will start bigger, then we will go smaller. The requirements are set forth. You can look at Section 8, which has the definition of a covered employer, so we're not going to spend any time on folks that aren't within that definition. From there will be some communications on with employers. I don't know how long that period will be, but basically that you need to enroll your business in this program. Hopefully, if we can partner with another state, there will be a portal or some sort of system that makes that as seamless as possible. We're also very thankful that we can work with our chambers of commerce to one, offer this plan or one of their plans too, which is a provision of this legislation now. Then that employer would register and let us know how many employees they have, who are those employees, and there would be, we kind of move into the employee side. I don't know exactly what that would look like, Madam Chair, but you see a lot of disclosures that would be required. There would be a ton of communication with the employer and their employees to make sure they understood what the program was, how when contributions would be coming out of their paycheck, and then on the back end side, that employee would have access, similar like to you would with a retirement account or a savings account or a regular checking account, some sort of portal where they could check their assets, could easily change their contribution rate, could change their investment strategy, and those sorts of things. I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. And a couple questions kind of to follow up from that. And so is there a rate or a charge to the employers for the program?
Thank you for the question, Chair Torres. No.
And they would still, and thank you for the answer. And to be clear, then they would still have the option if they were already part of a trade association, they could be a part of that. So if they wanted to be a part of like the chamber's plan, because I know that the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce has something similar, they would be able to continue doing that, right?
Thank you for the question, Chair Torres. Yes, if employers want to stay on the program they're on, stay. If they want to join the trade associations program, something like the Chamber of Commerce, happy for them to do that, as long as their employees have an option.
Thank you. And another question now back to the employee side, which you did cover on quite a bit, Mr. Jimenez. And so for the employee side, will they be required to sign up for this program or to participate in this program, or is this really just requiring that the employer give them the information? Then if they, and that communication, I'm sure, will be administered by that board, and then the employee has that option.
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Torres. So what will happen is, essentially, if the employee chooses nothing, they will be in. But ideally, this is an active process by which they will get this form to sign up, and they will elect what percentage they would like to participate. And there is no reason why that percentage could not be zero from the very beginning if they so choose.
Thank you. And, I think that something that wasn't really hit on in the presentation is what is the impact that this will have on Nevada families? Because when I think about the impact on hardworking Nevada families, it seems to me that this is a way for them to plan for post-retirement. I mean, I know, obviously, I think I'm the youngest person in the Nevada State Assembly, and many of my peers, age-wise, are not investing in retirement and don't have a plan for their retirement system. And so this seems to me that it'll at least open up the conversation, allow them to have that to have that opportunity to participate in a retirement program that for individuals that otherwise would not. Is that the goal, so that they can be ready to retire when they are ready?
Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman Torres. That is 100% the goal, right? I mean, 40 years ago, you went to a job, you worked for the same company for 40 years, and the trade-off was you were going to get this pension. That's a percentage of your, usually your highest earned salary, and that was your retirement plan. But those days are squarely in the past, right? People move jobs frequently. Social Security is not as reliable as I think any of us would like it to be. And so we've moved to these kind of individual savings mechanisms as the way for people to be prepared for retirement instead of relying on, again, the pension or Social Security as an option. And so, yes, this is really designed to incentivize folks to get in early, start saving so that they're in the best place that they can be as they age.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me go through that so we could get that, make it very clear for committee members. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. I think that the long line of questioning helped to answer some other questions. Members, any additional questions? Assemblyman De Silva.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Harris, for bringing this great piece of legislation to fray. For a long time, I personally have been very much a proponent of retirement systems that are overseen by public entities. And again, I think it's just the right thing to do, especially in this day and age where we know that people aren't preparing for their retirements. We have lots of data that shows that the average American hasn't made this a focus of theirs. So my question is this: is it too late for me to sign on to be a sponsor onto this bill? Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman De Silva. Absolutely not, as long as you can make sure the chair concurs on that amendment.
The chair might concur on the amendment, but I might like to be added on as well.
I would be happy to have any of you just shoot me an email or my legislative assistant, Lena, and we will make sure we make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. At this time, I don't believe that there are any additional questions from our committee members, and so we will move into support, and so I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in support of SB 305.
Madam Chair, I have another bill in Assembly Judiciary that I've got to present. Do you mind if I just drop down and
Yeah, no, go ahead.
it?
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For the record, my name is Mark Ellis. I am not testifying on behalf of CWA this time. I'm doing it on behalf of myself. My wife works for a small company, and I think this is an outstanding idea. I fully support this.
My name is Dakota Hoskins, Political Director for SEIU Local 1107. SEIU supports SB 305 as well. We think it's important that everyone who works in Nevada is able to retire and save as they need, and we hope to have your support as well.
Kent Irvin, ERVIN. I am speaking for myself today, but based on my experience as a member of NSHE's Retirement Plan Advisory Committee since 2006, and my 2 terms on the Nevada Deferred Compensation Program Committee, appointed by Governor Sandoval and reappointed by Governor Sisolak, and from following PERS both in my Nevada Faculty Alliance role and because I married into PERS. Speaking for myself, SB 305 is a good idea. Individual retirement savings are important. Social Security is not enough. Most small businesses have trouble managing a good separate plan. 3 points. First, studies show that auto-enrollment is important for a successful retirement plan. It's just about human behavior, about finances. People need a nudge even when they know they need to save, and any extra step can be an obstacle to signing up. Second, small businesses are often ill-equipped to offer a retirement plan on their own. If they do try, they're likely to be directed into a high-expense plan through a financial advisor who gets paid by commissions or so-called revenue sharing from investment companies. And so a state-sponsored plan can leverage its size to reduce expenses, which are the major drag on retirement savings. Third, emergency savings were mentioned. Emergency savings sidecar accounts where the employee puts money in first before it rolls into the IRA can reduce withdrawals out of the retirement accounts with the associated taxes or penalty. That's not part of the bill, but could be provided through a program like this. Please support SB 305. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Susan Fisher with McDonald Carano speaking on behalf of Pew Charitable Trust this morning. One thing I want to point out from the get-go, these programs are set up as Roth IRAs. So the contributions may be taken out penalty-free, but then the investment gains are taxable. And hopefully they have good investment gains. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak on behalf of Senate Bill 305. There were a number of questions asked about the direct impact on Nevada and on Nevadans, and so I do have some information that the Pew Charitable Trust has pulled together. Pew supports 305 for the nearly 600,000 private sector Nevada workers who lack access to a workplace retirement plan. Nevada faces a crisis because workers are not saving enough. Insufficient retirement savings will increase pressure on public assistance programs serving older adults. New Pew commissioned research had three major findings. One, the number of Nevada residents aged 65 and older is expected to double by over 1 million by 2040. Two, a shrinking population of working-age taxpayers will need to cover the cost for the financially vulnerable. And three, over the 20-year period ending in 2040, insufficient retirement savings will result in an additional state social service spending here in Nevada by $1.8 billion, or about $90 million a year. But if Nevada households saved just an additional $110 per month, they could erase this taxpayer burden and maintain their standard of living in retirement. I have some more on here, but I think that you get the point. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And we also have Mr. John Scott from the Pew Charitable Trust online in case there are any other specific questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Members, any questions? I don't believe there are any. Oh, Assemblyman DeLong.
I just have a quick comment, Ms. Fisher. The point about the fact that these are Roth IRAs is actually quite significant and would have been quite helpful at the beginning of the testimony to know that's what we're talking about, because it definitely would have changed the questions that were asked. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeLong. And we did have some robust questioning in here this morning, and I appreciate all the questions very much. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the next testimony in support.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Chelsea Capurro here on behalf of the Urban Chamber. I'll be quick. We are in support. Thank the sponsor for bringing this.
Good morning, Chair Torres, members of the committee. My name is Maria Moore. I'm the State Director for AARP Nevada, and we are in strong support of SB 305. And while we know that, you all know that AARP is a nonprofit, nonpartisan, and we associate with the 50+, we certainly care about everyone, especially those who will retire one day. And for many of you, I'm talking to you. We also work closely with the chambers. Without their work to really bring this bill to fruition, we could not have done it alone. So we're all in it together. Like many states, and you heard from earlier, my earlier colleague, that we have many 566,000 members rely on Social Security, not members, but beneficiaries rely on Social Security. That's 30% for them. It's their primary source of income. And we know that that's enough, not enough to retire. And so what suffers is, do they pay for rent or do they pay for their medical needs? The cost of taxpayers along the line will only cost us in social services. With fewer employers willing or able to do this, it is important for bills like SB 305 to come to fruition. And we also know that certain groups are disproportionately impacted. For instance, women who are, for most parts, sometimes partially or part-time employed, and for people of color who may not have access to these benefits in the workplace. So Senate bill is really necessary to reach this huge and underserved population. And for these reasons, we applaud SB 305 and urge its passing. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Chris Ferrari on behalf of the American Retirement Association. This group works with defined contribution plans, including 401ks, and represents 35,000 retirement plan professionals nationwide, including almost 200 here in the state, in support of SB 305. So the couple things on this bill, especially as a small employer, as many of you on this committee are, the 401k or IRA is the bane of my existence. I have to have a third-party administrator. It's incredibly challenging. There are a bajillion forms that you receive on a regular basis, so having an administrator is key. In this provision, this session, our theme is maximizing dollars in return from the federal government from the Secure 2.0 Act, and we put some stuff up on Nellis for your purview. The small employer in the first 3 years gets up to $5,000 to administer that program. I can speak from a personal level that would easily cover my administrative costs. This program, if implemented, and the Treasurer has done some great stuff, so I know that will continue, will make eligible almost 700,000 Nevadans for new savings opportunities. So more savings, more stability in people's personal financial situations, and as the bill sponsor indicated, less reliance long-term on social programs. So I think that's why it got a bipartisan vote out of the Senate. People are looking at this saying, is it perfect? No. Any legislation is not going to be perfect, but this is a start. This gets this up and running, and as the sponsor again indicated, we can fine-tune as we go. The Treasurer has been creative. It's a great opportunity for Nevada, and let's maximize some federal dollars. Thank you for your support. In addition, real quickly, Andrew Remo is going to be calling in. He is the Director of Federal and State Legislative Affairs for the American Retirement Association. Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, legal is going to give us a little bit more clarity regarding which type of accounts this is inclusive of. That's in Section 23 of this bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. So under Section 23, subsection 3, the individual retirement accounts that are authorized to be maintained through the program are those that are allowed under either Section 408 or Section 408A of the Internal Revenue Code. Those are the sections that refer to both traditional and Roth IRAs. So I don't think that this bill mandates Roth IRAs, but it would allow people who participate in the plan to select either a traditional or a Roth IRA, or give the flexibility to use either type of IRA.
Thank you for that clarity. At this time, we will now go to Las Vegas. Anyone wishing to testify in support of SB 305? I do not see anyone approaching the table at this time. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 305?
Callers, if you would like to testify in support of SB 305, please press star 9 or raise hand in Zoom to take your place in the queue.
My name is Anna Wood, Government Affairs Chair and member of the Board of Directors of the Las Vegas Asian Chamber of Commerce. Good morning, Chair Torres, Vice Chair Duran, and members of the committee. I speak in support of SB 305. Building financial security is of vital importance to our AAPI families and all families in Nevada. By allowing small businesses to provide an additional savings venue for employees, this is a value add for us. AAPI businesses are sometimes comprised of 5 or more or less employees. Social Security is not enough for retirement for these families. We need to provide the security and peace of mind which this program, this bill, will provide in conjunction with other states and collaboration. States like, I believe, Arizona, New Mexico, Oregon, California, and many more. Many of our community partners have already engaged in dialogue regarding this program, and we are in support, and this is why I encourage you and urge you to support Senate Bill 305.
Hello, everybody. My name is Andy Remo. I'm with the American Retirement Association, and we have over 35,000 members dealing about businesses ranging from apple farmers to xylophone producers and everywhere in between. And So our mission is to advocate for policies that give every working American the ability to have a comfortable retirement. We heartily endorse SB 305, the NEST Act, and just want to make 3 quick points. Point 1, small businesses support payroll deduction savings program. Pew has done some incredible survey work here that 86% of small, mid-sized employers without plans, so employers between 5 and 250 employees, support the concept of a payroll deduction retirement plan with automatic enrollment. The second point here is that auto IRA programs such as the NEST program will complement the private sector retirement plan market. The NEST program, it's not going to compete with the private sector market. You recently released a report that shows that private sector retirement plan adoption rates rose in 3 states as a direct result of those states implementing an auto IRA program with retirement plan coverage requirement. So California, Illinois, and Oregon, the rate of introduction of new plans as a share of existing plans is higher than before these states introduced the savings program. And then the final point is that the new federal small employer plan designs and startup incentives are critical now. In December, the federal Congress enacted new designs and incentives for small businesses that essentially allow small businesses to start a 401k plan at no cost. The new simple 401k plan design called the Starter K does not require any employer contributions or complicated compliance testing. And businesses with 50 or fewer employees get a credit for 100% of retirement plan admin expenses for the first 3 years of a plan, capped at $5,000. The typical cost to administer a plan for most small businesses is below $1,000. And there are also new tax credits for employer contributions. So in short, 14 states have already done this. Nevada should be the 15th state. It's time to get this done given the federal policy framework, and I really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, we'll go ahead and go to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition to SB 305?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good to see you again. Trey Abney here representing the 2,000 member businesses of NFIB in Nevada. First of all, I want to thank Senator Harris. Although we do oppose this bill, we know that it has been compromised down to something certainly more palatable and manageable than where this has started. And this is a long, multi-year effort, and NFIB has opposed these ideas around the country. And again, we just have a fundamental issue with requiring businesses, especially small businesses, to participate in a retirement program. We would certainly support if the state wants to set up a program that we can advertise, steer people toward. We know that my friend Mr. Jimenez would do an excellent job running this program. It is just at the base level the requirement that a business participate in. And as I mentioned in testimony on an earlier bill, my members are concerned about having another hoop to jump through on top of all the local, state, and federal regs that they are already subject to. And finally, Madam Chair, I'll just close with if you do choose to process this bill, historically in this building, we set an exemption of small businesses at about 50 employees, and this one sets it at 5, which is pretty low when we talk about the smallest of small business. So for all those reasons, NFIB opposes this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I have a couple questions, Mr. Abney. Have you had the opportunity to speak with the bill sponsor and the proponents of the bill?
Yes, for the record, Trey Abney. Yes, we spoke with Senator Harris in the other house, so she was aware of our concerns. Yes, ma'am.
Because it's my understanding that there has not, with the significant amendments that this legislation has had, there hasn't been anybody that has come to talk to the senator about additional concerns. I don't flag at this point in session, and I will note that for anybody coming into my committee, if you have opposition to a bill and you haven't spoken to the sponsor with a reprinted version, especially for a bill that has been so significantly amended, it's frustrating to hear that. Additionally, I'm pretty confident that we have other places in statute where we do have numbers under 50 for businesses. But I would urge you in the future, especially when you're going to come before my committee 5 days before sign die, that you speak to the bill sponsor about any of that opposition.
For the record, Trey Abney, we did speak to the bill sponsor about our opposition, and it remains, again, just requiring employers to do it. So our opposition would remain no matter how many amendments were on the bill. But thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any additional opposition here in Carson City. We'll go to Las Vegas.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Emily Osterberg. I'm here representing the Henderson Chamber of Commerce and our over 1,800 members, most of which are small businesses. We are opposed to SB 305. While we appreciate the intent to help people save for retirement, the requirements in the bill may be onerous and burdensome on small businesses. Section 8 requires compliance from employers with as few as 5 employees. These are small businesses that often do not have the resources or capacity to fulfill the additional obligations required under the bill. Section 9 additionally requires compliance from micro nonprofit organizations that are under tremendous pressure to comply with other federal and state regulations. Simply understanding the required contribution rate under Section 6 is onerous enough. It does not provide guidance to employers in the event that there are additional withholdings from employees' wages, such as garnishments. Coupling that with unknown amount of contribution rates set forth in Section 20 literally ensures compliance challenges for small businesses that are disproportionately affected by SB 305. Adding to these challenges are the provisions of Section 23. For example, Section 6 requires deposit to the fund within 10 days of a payday. The accounting of this will create additional challenges that small businesses oftentimes do not have, payroll services to manage withholding the transmission of funds to the state. Similarly, subsection 11 of Section 23 requires the employer to deliver certain documents and disclosures to employees. There's no time frame set for such delivery. Employees will look to their employers for direction under these disclosures, creating additional obligations and challenges to microbusinesses to address the implementation of this state's policy. And as mentioned previously in the other testimony, it is the requirement part of this that we have to stand in opposition for. It requiring small businesses who don't always have the ability to implement all these different regulations is what we are opposed to. So the Henderson Chamber of Commerce looks to this body to create legislation that enables robust employment and benefits within our community, and SB 305 does not do this. Thank you.
Is there anybody else in Las Vegas? I don't believe I see anybody else in Las Vegas. PPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to SB 305?
Callers, if you would like to testify in opposition to SB 305, please press star 9 or raise hand in Zoom to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide opposition testimony at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to testify neutral to SB 305? I don't see any here in Carson City. Is there anybody in Las Vegas wishing to testify neutral to SB 305? Maybe we do have some neutral in Carson City. I was just going too quickly. No problem. When you're ready.
Sorry about that, Chair. Paul Moratkin with the Vegas Chamber. Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank Senator Harris and ARP for working with the Chamber on SB 305. As many of you know, the Chamber philosophically has had many concerns with this previous legislation over the years, and are able to get to neutralities based off of a compromise on several components of the bill. And again, I want to thank them working through the Chamber on those provisions. For full disclosure, the Chamber does offer a retirement plan. I think that is important to note that Chambers of Commerce and trade associations would be able to offer a plan that would, through this new programming at the state level in Section 23. That's one of the reasons Chamber is neutral, is because we do offer a product, and we think that's important to disclose that. I did want to clarify just quickly, though, the plan the Chamber offers and has been able to offer in the last several years through the federal regulations is a plan that's targeted to small businesses that is affordable, accessible. So I did want to clarify some of the earlier comments that were made by some of the proponents about the fees that are charged to small businesses and so forth. That is never the intent of Chamber programming to do so, or any other trade association. So I just want to clarify that. But again, the Chamber appreciates efforts, and as I said, it's a huge movement for us to get here. So I want to thank Senator Harris for working with us on those technical components of the bill, and appreciate the work of this committee in this discussion today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and great to have you back in our committee. At this time, is there anybody wishing to testify neutral to SB 305 in Las Vegas? I don't believe I see any BPS. Is there anyone on the line wishing to testify neutral to SB 305?
Callers, if you would like to testify neutral for SB 305, please press star 9 or raise hand in Zoom to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. And since the bill sponsor has left, I will close the hearing on SB 305. At this time, we will go ahead and go to our next piece of legislation. And the next piece of legislation we have is SB 166. When you're ready, SB 166, we will open the hearing. I don't know if did I close the hearing? We will close the hearing on SB 305, and I will open the hearing on SB 166, which revises provisions relating to collective bargaining by public employees. Thank you. Oh, sorry, we're just horsing around over here.
Julie Pazina for the record, and I love the pun.
I'm sorry. We got a horse here. Hey, whoa.
Good morning, Chair Torres, Vice Chair Duran, and members of the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs. For the record, again, my name is Julie Pazina, representing Senate District 12 in Clark County, and I'm here with you today to present Senate Bill 166 along with Rick McCann. As the committee is likely aware, in 2019, the legislature approved Senate Bill 135, which authorized collective bargaining between the state and certain state employees, generally those in the classified system of employment. It provides for collective and supplemental bargaining between the executive branch of state government and an exclusive representative for a wide range of subjects, including, but not limited to, salary or wage rates, leave, and employee safety. The bill defined bargaining units for specific employee groups, including separate units for Category 1, 2, and 3 peace officers. Senate Bill 166 before you today seeks to resolve some of the collective bargaining challenges for supervisors who are grouped in with peace officers and firefighters that they supervise. This bill allows law enforcement and firefighter supervisors to engage in collective bargaining and allows them to create a collective bargaining unit separate from the employees they supervise. The bill also recognizes the unique nature of the work conducted by civilians who provide support services in a law enforcement agency and allows them to participate in collective bargaining. I'd also like to thank Assemblyman Hibbets and Urick for their work on this bill as well. And with the chair's permission, I'd like to now turn it over to Rick McCann with the Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers to provide additional testimony regarding the origin and the need for this legislation. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. On this 115th day, members of the committee and staff, my apologies for horsing around earlier. For the record, my name is Rick McCann. I'm here today representing Nevada Association of Public Safety Officers and Nevada Law Enforcement Coalition to help present SB 166. Now, this is keep in mind, this is very important, so I'm sorry. First of all, I also wish to thank Senator Pazina, Assemblyman Hibbets, and all of the joint sponsors and co-sponsors for their support of this bill. Quickly, addressing Section 1 of the bill, existing law, which is NRS 288.138, defines a supervisory, quote-unquote, employee as a person who exercises one or more of a list of tasks that are listed therein in the performance of their duties. However, in certain paramilitary structures, such as law enforcement and firefighting, employees are often required to perform some of these tasks in a temporary fashion. For example, acting sergeants, acting lieutenants, officers in charge, but they're not considered permanent supervisors at that time when they're performing these tasks. In 2019, NRS 288.138 was amended to its current language that prohibits employees with paramilitary command structures, such as police and fire, from being deemed supervisors solely due to the exercise of certain temporary duties. That's the current state of the law. This, SB 166 in Section 1, also now will exclude civilian law enforcement employees who work under the police paramilitary command structure from being deemed supervisors merely due to the occasional temporary exercise of those same duties. That's Section 1. Addressing Section 2 of the bill, existing law permits collective bargaining units for each of a number of occupational groups employed by the state, including Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3 peace officers, but not those supervisors within those three groups. In other words, it covers the officers, the rank and file. It does not cover the supervisors. In fact, all supervisors throughout the entire state are, in all occupational groups in this state, are lumped into one big collective bargaining unit. Under NRS 288.515, in the state's employ, there are accounting supervisors, maintenance supervisors, custodial supervisors, physical therapist supervisors, mental health supervisors, healthcare supervisors who provide care for children, clerical supervisors, law enforcement supervisors, firefighter supervisors. The list goes on. They're all in one big collective bargaining group. That's unmanageable. It has been since 2019. For this reason, no supervisors in the state have been able to collectively bargain as a cohesive unit for the past 4 years. Section 2 of this bill addresses that issue for Category 1, Category 2, and Category 3 supervisory peace officers and firefighters. By establishing separate bargaining units for these occupational categories, we give them, finally, the opportunity to collectively bargain for their wages, their benefits, and their working conditions. Also in Section 2, in subparagraph 2, it mirrors some language that is currently in NRS 288, and that currently applies to local government peace officers under NRS 288.140, and which we simply want to extend to state peace officers. It simply states that any bargaining unit established for state peace officers must be composed exclusively of peace officers. Again, just mirroring the current state of the law for locals. Once again, this maintains the community of interest of peace officers for bargaining units. And for these reasons, we ask that you support SB 166. Thank you.
And now we'll get off of our high horse and be ready for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll go ahead and corral the members and see if we have any questions. Has someone been too long? Nope.
I'm reining myself in.
He reined himself in. We're good. Are there any additional questions? Councilwoman MacArthur? No, not today. Thank you. All right, thank you. There are no additional questions. I know that we did. Nay.
By the way, happy birthday, Assemblyman MacArthur.
Clearly, we were in this building way too late yesterday. At this time, I don't see any questions, so we will go ahead and move on to support. So if any support would like to gallop up to the dais, we'll invite any support for SB 166.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you for you and the committee for listening to this important legislation. That was great. We actually saw the horse from the back, and we noticed, we're like, what is that down there? Anyway, we support the bill. Again, this allows our supervisors to have contracts that are consistent with the people they supervise, which is very important. We do this on the local level, and we feel that it's important to have it on the state level as well. Thank you.
Thank you, chairs and members. Thank you, chair and members of the committee. My name is Dakota Hoskins, political director for SEIU Local 1107. We support SB 166. We believe it's important that workers can organize, unionize, and collectively bargain, and we think that this will ensure that more workers can do that here in the state, and so we urge your support. Thank you.
Kent Irvin, Nevada Faculty Alliance. We support SB 166. Our colleagues on the campus police in the Southern Command and the Northern Command are Category 1 peace officers. It makes sense for their supervisors to have their own bargaining unit because they meet the community of interest standard, which is a big stretch if they are in the same unit as all other supervisors in the state. Our campus police are suffering from high vacancies rates, so anything that helps with retention is a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Susie Martinez, and I am the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the Nevada State AFL-CIO. On behalf of 150,000 members and 120 unions, we are in full support of the bill. Thank you very much.
My name is Brady Easterling with AFSCME, and we are in support of the bill. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ricky Guerrier with Tri-Strategies on behalf of the Nevada Police Union, the sole collective bargaining unit for Category 1 peace officers in the state. And for this reason, we are in support of this bill.
I don't see any additional support here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of SB 166? I don't believe I see any BPS. Is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 166?
Callers, if you would like to testify in support of SB 166, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. One moment, Chair. Caller with the last three digits 900, you're unmuted on our end. Please go ahead.
Hello, good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is James Robinson, and I'm a supervisor with the Category 2 police agency in the state of Nevada, and I'm in support of the Senate Bill 160. Thank you.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition to SB 166? I don't see anyone here in Carson City, and I don't believe I see anyone in Las Vegas. BPS, is there anyone online wishing to testify in opposition to SB 166?
Callers, if you would like to testify in opposition to SB 166, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to testify neutral to SB 166? I don't see any horses approaching the dais here in Carson City, and I don't see anyone in Las Vegas. BPS, is there anyone on the line?
Callers, if you would like to testify neutral for SB 166, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite the bill sponsor for any closing remarks. And it looks like we're good. The horse will stay there. At the time, we'll close the hearing on SB 166. And I will open the hearing. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take a recess, and we will contact the senator's office to see if they're ready to present. Thank you. The Assembly Committee on Government Affairs will reconvene, and at this time we'll open the hearing on SB 279, which revises provisions relating to employment. Senator Spearman, when you're ready, you may begin. And just in case, I'm going to close the hearing on SB 166, but we open this one anyways.
So I'm just coming from another committee, so let me pull my testimony.
No problem. Take your time.
Good morning, Chair Torres and members of the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs. My name is State Senator Pat Spearman, and I represent Senate District 1 in Clark County. I'm here and happy to present Senate Bill 279, which continues my ongoing work to ensure that our laws provide equal opportunities for every citizen of this state. Specifically, the issue before you today relates to recognizing and fostering the employment of persons with disabilities. By way of background, the existing public policy of the state is that persons with disabilities must, 1, be afforded equal opportunities for employment by the state, and 2, full consideration must be given to the employment of a person with a disability if the person is capable of performing the essential functions of the position with or without reasonable accommodations. Senate Bill 279 is intended to take our state's employment practices for those with disabilities one step further, because I truly believe that even though we have laws in place that hold private industry accountable, there are still some things that we as a state can do to make sure that we are walking our talk. The bill establishes Nevada as a model employer program to ensure best policies and practices and procedures for hiring, promoting, and retaining persons with disabilities. It also requires the Division of Human Resource Management of the Department of Administration to work with a Rehabilitation Division of the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation, we know it as DETR, to provide technical assistance. After being approved by the Senate Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, Senate Bill 279 took a very lengthy detour to the Senate Committee on Finance, and upon introduction of the bill, the Division of Human Resource Management placed a fiscal note on SB 279 in recognition of the increased workload and the need for training materials and statewide travel. However, the Senate Committee on Finance recommended State Amendment 780 to Senate Bill 279 that was adopted by the Senate to include an appropriation of $80,195 in fiscal year 23-24 and $98,171 in fiscal year 24 and 25 from the State General Fund to carry out the program. It was then approved by the Senate without a single vote of opposition, and I hope that we can carry on that streak with this committee. Let me just say that the Americans with Disability Act was actually passed in 1990. And at that point, not only were private industry businesses expected to comport with this, but also states. So I call this bill the SAME bill, which is the state as a model employer. We can't teach what we don't know, and we can't lead where we won't go. And so if we're going to require our private industry persons to do this, I believe that it's very important, it's of the utmost important that the state be the one to lead by example. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, members. Are there any questions? I don't believe that there are any questions at this time. Thank you, Senator, for the presentation. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify in support of SB 279. And when you're ready, you may begin.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Catherine Nielsen. I'm the Executive Director of the Nevada Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. First off, the state of Nevada employs more than 18,000 employees, and as an employer, it has a duty to our citizens to employ people of all abilities. Our council believes that all individuals with disabilities who can and want to work should have access to the resources and supports necessary to gain and maintain meaningful community-based employment. We also suggest that you implement employment-first policies that transform the expectations of state agencies. Service providers and people with developmental disabilities deserve this. Under Employment First, the expectation is that a person with a developmental or other disabilities can and want to work, and a successful outcome is finding these individuals meaningful and gainful employment that meets their needs and interests by tailoring services to help them succeed in the workforce. And we also want to add that we worked with the Division of Human Resource Management to help eliminate the list of exempt positions for the 700-hour program. At the beginning of this session, there was roughly 45 positions that were considered exempt, that anybody using the 700-hour list could not apply for positions under those. And it's things like social worker and clerical trainee, things that they should have access to. So the Division of Human Resource Management has eliminated that exempt list. So it's a pretty big move for the state. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in Carson City wishing to testify in support of SB 279? I do not see anyone at this time. I'll go to Las Vegas. Is there anyone in Las Vegas? I don't believe there's any. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in support of SB 279?
Callers, if you would like to testify in support of SB 279, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Chair and the committee members. This is Dora Martinez with the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. I would like to ditto the fantastic, awesome, amazing Executive Director of Nevada Council on Developmental Disability. And thank you to the sponsor of this bill. You are fantastic. Thank you and take care.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Stephen Cohen for the record. Stephen with a V, Cohen as in the Assemblywoman, no known relation. Ditto, thank you, and I yield.
Chair, there are no more callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Is there anyone wishing to testify in opposition to SB 279? I don't see any opposition here in Carson City, and I don't see anyone approaching in Las Vegas. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to testify in opposition to SB 279?
Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. At this time, I'll invite anyone wishing to testify neutral to SB 279. I do see the administrator here. We do have a quick question for you, if we could. Thank you. And I'll go ahead and go to Vice Chair Duran. Thank you.
Good morning, and thank you for the presentation, Senator. Can you tell me what the state does currently to ensure hiring managers that know how to deal with people with disabilities, or is there any training for them that they need to acquire to be able to handle a situation?
For the record, Mandy Bosmith. I serve the state of Nevada as the administrator for the Division of Human Resource Management within the Department of Administration. Thank you for the question. Currently, we have supervisory training classes that are mandatory. Within those mandatory trainings, there is a small portion of one of the modules that talks about supervising and managing employees that may have disabilities. They may be identified disabilities or not identified disabilities. What we are looking to accomplish, as Senator Spearman noted, we put a fiscal note on SB 279 primarily because we agree with Senator Spearman that we need to beef up our efforts to bring folks who are differently abled or pardon me, or have some sort of disability into state employment. Typically, the Department of Employment, Training, and Rehabilitation is the one that works with folks to get them outside employment, not within the state. But we also work together to put together that 700-hour list, and we have understood, based on feedback from departments and divisions, that once we place somebody off of that 700-hour list, we really need to continue a supportive process, a business partner process to support not only the employee, but the managers and the supervisors that have that employee. I sort of envision what you all might know as a 504 plan, like I have for my children at school, something that gives a clear documented plan for how that employee can succeed and how the department can succeed in managing the employee as well. And that's one of the things that we hope to build with the program, with the language in this bill.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for the administrator? I don't believe that there are, and I really appreciate you coming to talk a little bit about that, because I do believe that there's more information that we could provide. As an educator, we get extensive training about how to work with individuals that are differently abled, and I know that that's not the reality for most individuals and most managers. And so I definitely think that that's something that could be helpful in a variety of workplace settings. So thank you so much for your presentation. I do have a follow-up from the Vice Chair.
And thank you. And I know that sometimes people develop a disability, like with their vision or some type of stuff. And I think there is programs out there that will help with that, to retain the employer, to retain that person. Is that something that you are involved with, or this bill would help cover, or would they go to that different, and I can't remember the name of it, and I think it was Dieter.
Thank you for the question. For the record, Mandy Bosmith, Administrator for the DHRM. We do currently participate in the ADA interactive process. Should somebody become disabled or develop a serious health condition that limits their ability to perform the essential functions of their job, we enter into the interactive process as put forward by the ADA. And essentially, we gather information about their abilities, where their limitations may be, and we take a look at their job and figure out if there are accommodations that we can make. So a great example is folks that are desk workers tend to develop back problems because they sit a lot. An accommodation may be as simple as a new chair with lumbar support, or perhaps a very desk where they can stand up for a period of time during their workday. Something like that is a very, small example. All the way through to there may be a situation where somebody develops a disability during their employment where we need to address, they may not be able to do that particular job that they're in. And so we have a process whereby we look statewide to see if there's another job that they perhaps can do. And then on the Dieter side, they have vocational rehabilitation programs. You see that a lot with workers' compensation folks, that they enter into a vocational rehabilitation program to help them rehab into gaining skills that can be useful for opportunities coming up. So there are programs in place, but to Chair Torres's point, we can always do better, and we can always develop more training to help support these individuals.
Thank you. Members, any additional questions? I don't believe there are any. Thank you so much for being with us today. At this time, I don't see any additional neutral here in Carson City. Is there anyone in Las Vegas? I don't believe I see any BPS. Is there anyone on the line wishing to testify neutral to SB 279?
Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. I'll invite the sponsor for any closing remarks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll just conclude with a personal story. In April of 2005, I was selected to become the senior liaison officer with the United Nations peacekeeping force over in Eritrea. And while I was going through my physical exam, we realized that I had a problem with my shooting hand. It's dystonic. And so I couldn't use my weapon, and I tried to convince them that it's okay because in a United Nations assignment, you don't use weapons. But I was medically retired because of that. I would have served 40 years if I could have. And I see my situation then with so many other people who are able to do the job with the exception of one thing, maybe two things. But we all deserve an opportunity to serve. And so I hope that you will look favorably upon this legislation because it is designed so that we can walk our talk, the state as a model employer. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we'll close the hearing on SB 279. And we will go ahead and take a 1-minute recess. The Assembly Committee on Government Affairs will reconvene. We think we're ready to reconvene. I imagine we are. Today we will, just a note to everyone, this is now on the record. Today we will conduct a work session to take action on measures that the committee has heard in previous meetings. It is not customary for the committee to, well, actually we heard it this meeting. It's not customary for us to rehear the bills that we heard literally this morning. However, I may invite a witness to come forward for clarification or questions during our consideration of a measure. We're going to go ahead and just go in order of the bills that we looked at today as they are listed on the roster. So we'll begin, so numerical order, we will begin with SB 24.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 24, heard today, extends the prospective expiration of the Office of Small Business Advocacy from July 1, 2023 to push it out 2 years to 2025. The bill also eliminates the prohibition on employing personnel for the office with money from the state general fund and authorizes the lieutenant governor to employ personnel for the office within the limits of money appropriated or authorized for such purposes. Testimony indicated that the office is currently receiving funding from ARPA. There were no amendments. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, are there any questions? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to do pass SB 24. I have the motion from Assemblyman Carter, and I have a second from Assemblywoman Taylor. Members, any discussion? At this time, we'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. This motion does carry. And I'll assign the floor statement, which I'm sure will not occur, to Assemblyman Carter. And we'll go next, and we'll consider SB 166.
Thank you, Chair Torres. This is Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 166 requires the Government Employee Management Relations Board to establish separate collective bargaining units for supervisory employees who are Category 1, 2, or 3 peace officers and firefighters. The bill also excludes certain employees who provide civilian support services to a law enforcement agency from being deemed supervisory employees solely due to the exercise of certain duties under a paramilitary command structure. There were no amendments.
Members, is there any discussion on this motion? Or I apologize, we haven't made a motion. Members, are there any questions? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to do pass SB 166. I have the motion from Assemblyman Hibbets. Do I have a second? I have a second from Vice Chair Duran. Members, in a discussion on the motion. It doesn't appear there's any. We will go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. This motion does carry and passes unanimously. I'll assign the floor statement to Assemblyman Hibbets. At this time, we will go ahead and consider SB 279.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 279 establishes the state as a model employer program in the Division of Human Resources. The program is designed to ensure that the state is implementing the best, most promising, and emerging policies, practices, and procedures relating to the hiring, promotion, and retention of persons with disabilities. The bill also legislatively declares that it is the policy of the state to provide agencies in the executive branch of state government a framework for recruiting, hiring, promoting, and retaining qualified persons with disabilities. And the Senate Committee on Finance added an appropriation to from the State General Fund to carry out the program. There were no amendments.
Members, are there any questions? At this time, I'll entertain a motion to do pass SB 279. I have the motion from Assemblyman Gonzalez. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblyman Taylor. Members, any discussion? Doesn't appear that there is any. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. This motion does carry, and I'll send the floor statement to Assemblyman Gonzalez. We will consider next SB 301.
Thank you, Chair Torres. Jennifer Rudy, Committee Policy Analyst. Senate Bill 301 provides that a worker who is employed by delivering or removing construction material or structures to or from the site of a public work and is necessary in the execution of the contract for the public work is deemed to be employed on the public work for the purposes of the payment of prevailing wages. Any regulations adopted by the Labor Commissioner that conflict with the provisions of the bill are void and shall be removed from the Nevada Administrative Code. SB 301 also appropriates funding to the Labor Commissioner to carry out the compliance and enforcement duties related to the provisions of the bill. There were no amendments.
Thank you. So an adamant no. And we will go ahead and assign that floor statement to Assemblyman Carter, not MacArthur, Carter. And next, we will consider SB 305.
Senate Bill 305, also heard this morning, creates the Board of Trustees of the Nevada Employee Savings Trust and authorizes the board to establish the Nevada Employee Savings Trust Program. This is a very long summary, so I will just go ahead and leave it at that. There was one amendment proposed, and it was just to add co-sponsors, and my understanding is that would include the 8 members of the committee as listed, the Assembly members De Silva, Taylor, Duran, Wynn, Carter, Gonzalez, Thomas, and Torres. And that was the only amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, any discussion? Assemblyman DeLong. Any questions? I'm a little all over the place. Apparently we were here till like 11 o'clock or something. It doesn't appear there's any discussion. At this time, we'll go ahead and take a motion. I will entertain a motion to do pass SB 305.
So moved.
I apologize. I will go ahead and rescind that. We're going to go ahead and take a motion to amend and do pass to add the co-sponsors. I have the motion from Assemblyman Thomas. Do I have a second? I have a second from Vice Chair Duran. Members, any discussion? Assemblyman DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. In general, I actually think this is a good bill and a good concept for the state. However, someone that ran a small business that had from 2 to 40 employees, I think a threshold of 5 employees is too low for this type of program and the burden it would place on the business. So I'm going to have to be a no for that reason only.
Thank you. Members, any additional discussion? Does it appear there's any? We'll go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Nay. I have the nay from Assemblyman MacArthur and Assemblyman DeLong, and I'll assign that floor statement to Vice Chair Duran. At this time, we'll go ahead and close the work session for Assembly Committee on Government Affairs today. And we'll go ahead and move on to the final item on our agenda, which is public comment. Is there anyone here in Carson City or in Las Vegas wishing to testify in public comment? I don't believe I see any BPSs or anyone on the line wishing to testify in public comment.
Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
All right, and I will remind the committee that there is likely going to continue to be meetings throughout the week. I will try to keep committee members informed as soon as we catch bills. So please make sure that you're following on the floor bills as they are introduced. Those will likely be scheduled in the next couple of days for hearing and likely work session. Because if you didn't know, we only have a couple days left here in Carson City. And so we'll be scheduling those pretty quickly and meeting as necessary. So at this time, the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs is adjourned.